I never thought I'd be the woman standing outside her own daughter's bedroom door at 2 a.m. Holding my breath, my heart pounding so loud I was sure it would wake the entire neighborhood. But there I was. And what I discovered on the other side of that door? It changed everything I thought I knew about my husband of 15 years. My name is Rachel. And this is the story of how a mother's intuition led me down a rabbit hole I never expected. You know that feeling when something's off in your house? When the energy shifts and you can't quite put your finger on why. That's exactly how it started for me. Let me take you back to the beginning, my husband. David and I had been married for 15 years. We met in college, fell in love the way people do in movies, and built what I thought was a beautiful life together in suburban Connecticut. We had a gorgeous 4-bedroom colonial, 2 cars in the driveway, and the picture-perfect family everyone envied. Our daughter Emma had just turned 13. She was going through that awkward phase all teenagers go through, suddenly needing privacy, spending hours in her room, rolling her eyes at everything I said. I figured it was normal. I mean, I was a teenage girl once too, right? But then I started noticing things, little things. At first, David would come to bed later and later. He'd say he was watching TV or finishing up work emails. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? This was my husband, the man I'd trusted with my entire life. Then one night, I woke up at 1:47 a.m. I remember the exact time because I looked at the clock, annoyed that I'd been jolted awake. The bed beside me was empty. Cold, actually. Like David hadn't been there for a while. I figured he'd fallen asleep on the couch. Happened all the time, especially when he was stressed about work. So I rolled over and tried to go back to sleep. But something stopped me. A sound. So faint, I almost missed it. Footsteps, soft, careful footsteps in the hallway. The kind of footsteps someone makes when they're trying not to be heard. I held my breath and listened. The footsteps stopped. Right outside Emma's room, I heard her door creak open. Then nothing. Silence. My mind raced through 100 explanations. Maybe Emma was sick and called out for him. Maybe he heard something and was checking on her. That's what good fathers do, right? I told myself I was being paranoid. I forced myself back to sleep. But the next morning, I watched David carefully. He was ... normal. Completely, totally normal. He made pancakes for Emma, kissed me goodbye before work, reminded me about our dinner reservation on Friday. Normal. So why couldn't I shake this feeling? For the next 2 weeks, I became a detective in my own home. I hated myself for it. What kind of wife suspects her husband of what, exactly? I didn't even know what I was looking for. But every night, like clockwork, I'd pretend to be asleep. And every night, around 1 or 2 a.m., David would slip out of bed. I'd hear those same careful footsteps. That same creak of Emma's door. He'd stay in there for anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. Then he'd come back to bed like nothing happened. I started losing sleep. I started losing my mind. Every scenario played out in my head, each one worse than the last. But I couldn't bring myself to confront him. What if I was wrong? What if there was a perfectly innocent explanation and I destroyed my family over nothing? One night, I decided I'd had enough. I needed answers. I waited for David to fall into his usual pattern. At 1:23 a.m., he slipped out of bed. I counted to 30, then followed. The hallway was dark. My feet knew every creaky floorboard from years of late-night trips to the bathroom. I avoided each one, moving like a ghost through my own house. Emma's door was slightly open. A thin strip of light spilled into the hallway. I crept closer, pressing myself against the wall, my pulse thundering in my ears. And then I heard it. David's voice. Low, almost a whisper. You're getting so much better, sweetheart. I'm really proud of you. I heard Emma giggle. Actually, giggle. She hadn't giggled like that around me in months. Thanks, Dad. Can we do another one? Of course. But remember, this has to stay our secret, okay? If Mom finds out... My blood ran cold. Our secret. If Mom finds out, those words echoed in my skull like a siren. Every terrible thought I'd been suppressing came rushing to the surface. My vision blurred with tears. My hands shook. I don't remember making a sound. But suddenly David was at the door, and the look on his face when he saw me, guilt. Pure, undeniable guilt. "Rachel," he breathed. "It's not what you think. Isn't that what they all say?" I pushed past him into Emma's room, and what I saw made me stop dead in my tracks. Emma was sitting at her desk. In front of her was a laptop, and on the screen, sheets of music, Mom. Emma jumped up, looking terrified. "It's not Dad's fault. I asked him to help me." I blinked. "What?" David stepped beside me, his hands raised like I was holding a weapon. "Rachel, please, let me explain." I looked around the room. No signs of anything sinister. Just my daughter, a laptop, and what looked like music composition software. "Someone start talking," I said. Now, Emma burst into tears. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I wanted to surprise you. For your birthday." I stared at her. "My birthday." David sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Remember how your father used to play that song for you? The one on the piano. Before he passed, I felt my knees go weak. My father had died 3 years ago. And yes, there was a song. A lullaby he wrote for me when I was a little girl. I'd never been able to find the sheet music after he passed. It died with him, I thought." Emma found some old recordings, David continued. "She's been learning music composition. She wanted to recreate the song for your birthday, but she needed help. She made me promise not to tell you." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She was crying, mascara running down her cheeks, looking absolutely devastated. "I'm sorry, Mom," she sobbed. "I know it's weird that Dad was sneaking in here, but I could only practice at night when you were asleep. I wanted it to be perfect." I sank onto her bed, my mind reeling. All those weeks of suspicion, all those terrible thoughts. "Show me," I whispered. "Show me what you've been working on." Emma hesitated, then sat back at her desk. Her fingers moved across the keyboard, clicking and adjusting. Then she hit play. The melody that filled the room. It was him. It was my father. The lullaby he'd played for me 1,000 times as a child. The one I'd hummed to Emma when she was a baby. The one I thought was lost forever. I broke down completely. David sat beside me, wrapping his arm around my shoulders. "She's been working on this for 3 months, Ratch. She wanted to give you something of your dad. Something you could keep forever." I pulled Emma into my arms, holding her so tight I'm surprised she could breathe. "I'm sorry," I kept saying. "I'm so sorry." But even as I apologized, even as I held my daughter, a small voice in the back of my mind whispered, ... "This explains the music. But it doesn't explain everything. ... For a few days after that night, everything felt normal again. Better than normal, actually. Emma and I grew closer. She showed me her progress on the song almost every day. David seemed relieved that the secret was out, but I'm a mother. And mothers notice things. Little things that didn't quite add up. Like why Emma still seemed nervous around me. Why she'd quickly close her laptop whenever I walked into her room unannounced. Why she'd look at David with something in her eyes I couldn't quite read. One afternoon, while Emma was at school and David was at work, I did something I swore I'd never do. I went through my daughter's room. I know how that sounds. But after everything that had happened, I needed to be sure. I needed to know that the lullaby was the whole story and nothing more. I searched carefully, putting everything back exactly where I found it. Nothing seemed unusual. Clothes, books, makeup, normal teenage stuff. Then I found it hidden behind her dresser. In a gap between the furniture and the wall was a journal, the kind with a lock on it. Though the lock was broken, my hands trembled as I opened it. The first few pages were typical diary entries. Complaints about school, drama with friends, crushes on boys. Normal 13-year-old stuff, but then, about 2 months back, the entries changed. Asterisk's dad noticed something's wrong. He keeps asking if I'm okay. I can't tell him. I can't tell anyone. I turned the page. It happened again today. He cornered me after gym class. Said if I tell anyone, he'll make sure no one believes me. I don't know what to do. My heart stopped. I can't sleep anymore. Every time I close my eyes, I see his face. I wish I was dead. Asterisk, I dropped the journal like it burned me. This wasn't about David. This wasn't about the lullaby. This was something else entirely. Something my daughter had been hiding from all of us. I picked up the journal again, forcing myself to keep reading. Asterisk, Dad came into my room last night. He saw me crying. I almost told him everything, but I couldn't. What would he think of me? What would Mom think? Asterisk, he said he wanted to help me with a secret project. Something special for Mom. I think he knows something's wrong. He's trying to give me a reason to keep going. I love him for that. Asterisk, the song is helping. When I work on it, I forget about everything else. About him. Asterisk him. Who is him? I flipped through more pages, desperate for answers. Asterisk, Tyler said he'd be waiting for me after school tomorrow. I'm so scared. I told Dad I needed help with a project again tonight. At least when he's here, I feel safe. Asterisk, Tyler. The name hit me like a truck. Tyler Morrison, the son of our neighbors, the Morrisons. He was 16, a junior at Emma's school. He seemed like such a nice kid. Always polite, always smiling. He coached the junior volleyball team that Emma was on. My vision went red. I read faster, each entry confirming my worst fears. Tyler had been targeting Emma for months, starting with comments, then touching, then threats. He'd convinced her that no one would believe her, that it was somehow her fault. And my daughter had been suffering alone. In silence, right under my roof, the nighttime visits from David suddenly made complete sense. Emma needed him. She needed to feel safe. Working on the song together, having her father nearby in those dark hours when fear took over, it was the only thing keeping her going. David knew something was wrong. He didn't know what, but he knew his daughter was struggling. And in his own way, he'd been saving her life. I sat on Emma's bed. The journal clutched to my chest, and I sobbed. When David came home that evening, I was waiting for him in the kitchen. Emma was at volleyball practice, the same practice where Tyler Morrison was assistant coach. Need to talk. I said before he could even put down his briefcase. He saw my face. What happened? Is Emma okay? I slid the journal across the counter. David's confusion turned to concern as he read. Then concern turned to something I'd never seen in my husband before. Rage. Pure, protective, fatherly rage. I'll kill him, David said quietly. I'll kill him. No, I said firmly. No, you won't. Because Emma needs her father here, not in prison. Then what do we do? I picked up my phone. We call the police. We call the school. And we burn that family's life to the ground, legally. But first, we needed to talk to Emma. She came home an hour later, dropping her volleyball bag by the door, calling out that she was going to shower. Emma, I called. Can you come here, please? She walked into the kitchen, saw both of us sitting there, and froze. Then she saw the journal on the counter. The color drained from her face. I can't explain. You don't have to explain anything, I said. Opening my arms, she hesitated for only a second before she ran to me, collapsing into my embrace like a little girl again. I'm sorry, she cried. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you. You have nothing to be sorry for, David said, his voice thick with emotion. This is not your fault. None of this is your fault. We held her for a long time. The three of us, crying together in our kitchen. Finally breaking through the walls of secrets and silence. When Emma was ready, she told us everything, every horrible detail, every threat Tyler had made, every moment of fear she'd experienced in silence, and we listened. We believed her. We held her. That night, I called the police. What followed was a whirlwind of investigations, interviews, and legal proceedings. Emma was incredibly brave, telling her story to detectives, to lawyers, to a courtroom full of strangers. Tyler Morrison, it turned out, had done this before. 2 other girls came forward after they heard about Emma's case. He'd been preying on younger girls for years, protected by his family's money and reputation, but not anymore. He was convicted on multiple charges. He'll be in prison until he's well into his 30s. The Morrison family moved away shortly after the trial. Their perfect suburban life destroyed, just like they deserved. It's been a year since that night when I stood outside Emma's door, terrified of what I might find. So much has changed. Emma sees a therapist twice a week. Some days are harder than others, but she's healing. She's stronger than I ever knew. The song she was working on, My Father's Lullaby, she finished it. She played it for me on my birthday, and I don't think there was a dry eye in the house. My mother came over to hear it, and watching her face as she recognized the melody, ... It was like having my father back just for a moment. David and I are closer than ever. That terrible night taught us both something important about trust and communication. We'd almost lost our daughter to a monster, and we hadn't even known. Never again. We talk now. Really talk. About everything. No more secrets. No more assumptions. And Emma. She's become an advocate. She speaks at schools about recognizing abuse, about speaking up, about believing victims. She's turned her pain into power. I'm so proud of her, it hurts. Looking back, I almost laugh at how everything started. A wife, suspicious of her husband's late-night visits to their daughter's room. It sounds like the plot of a crime show, doesn't it? But the truth was so much more complicated, and so much more beautiful. David wasn't sneaking into Emma's room to hurt her. He was sneaking in to save her. He knew something was wrong with his daughter, and even though she wouldn't tell him what, he found a way to be there for her. To give her something to hold on to in her darkest hours. That lullaby wasn't just a gift for me. It was a lifeline for Emma. A reason to keep going when the world felt impossible. Fathers don't always know how to fix things. But the good ones, they find a way to show up, to be present, to let their children know they're not alone. David is one of the good ones, and Emma. She taught me that sometimes the secrets our children keep aren't meant to hurt us. Sometimes they're protecting us from their pain. Sometimes they're carrying burdens. No child should ever have to carry. Our job as parents isn't to spy on our kids or invade their privacy, but it is to pay attention, to notice when something's off, to create a space where they feel safe enough to tell us the truth. I almost failed at that. If I hadn't followed David that night, if I hadn't found that journal, if I hadn't pushed for answers, ... I don't want to think about what might have happened. So here's what I want you to take away from my story. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, investigate. But do it with love, not suspicion. Talk to your children. Not just about school and friends, but about the hard stuff. About abuse. About what to do when someone makes them uncomfortable. About how you will always, always believe them. And hug your family tonight. Tell them you love them, because you never know what battles they're fighting in silence. As for me, I still sometimes stand outside Emma's door late at night, but now it's just to listen to her sleeping peacefully, to thank God that she's safe, that she's healing, that she's still here. My husband sneaked into our daughter's room every night, and thank God he did. If you or someone you know is experiencing abuse, please reach out for help. The National Sexual Assault Hotline is available 24/7 at 1-800-656-4673. You are not alone. You will be believed, and you deserve to be safe. Thank you for listening to my story. If it helps even one person speak up, it was worth telling.